when you feel as though you don't have time and you're just looking at your week at a high level. 0 to 10. What you are spending your time on, is this aligned? AK, is it an investment? Is it building towards something?
We make time for what is important. We schedule our day based on the top priorities. Welcome to Evolve Ventures, the one place where leaders like you can dependably go to shift your consciousness to unlimited potential. I am your host, Bianca Thomas.
And I am your host, Emilia Smith. Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 101.
Woohoo!
Optimization basics. And when you don't have time. So we're super excited to dive into this episode because how many people do you hear say, well, I just don't have time for that? And who could really use some basic stuff from your girls at Evolve Ventures to really bring it to them. So if you haven't already listened to our 100th episode 100, the wellness pill, please go back and listen to that. We've gotten a lot of feedback saying how refreshing it was to hear just the raw and realness of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and a female and have a global business, and how some of those challenges that we experience day in and day out, we allow things that are outside of our control to kind of get to us. And we, in that episode, dove into a simple wellness pill that can help you get out of that state and really ground yourself. So, Bianca, let's go and get started in this episode. Why specifically should people care about, optimization basics? Where do you want to start this one off?
I'll start with that question. Why should people care about optimization? Because this is going to be blunt, but it's the only way to get what you want. I mean, look at I've been listening to NLU, and Alan keeps talking about like Olympic athletes. So I'm just going to use that because that was the first thing that popped up in my mind. When you think of an Olympic athlete, right? Someone who is competing in the Olympics, let's even say someone who wins the Olympics. Do you think that they're just winging it? You're like, yeah, I think I'm just going to go do a workout today, but you know what? Maybe not. I don't feel like it. Do you think that they're not, or that they're going to just, yeah, I'm just going to go to McDonald's today and just, get a Big Mac. I just, you know what? I don't care. I don't feel like eating my diet today. Well, I'm supposed to meet my business manager today, but you know what? I don't feel like it. I'm just not going to do it. I don't have time. Hell no. Absolutely not. And if that was the case, they would not be Olympic athletes. They wouldn't be the winners of the Olympics. The sole reason, one of the primary differences for why they are there and you are not, is because of their ability to optimize, make clear-cut decisions about what they are going to do and are not going to do, and they rigidly uphold it. That's it. They're more diligent. They're more concise with their decision making. They're going to follow through. And now regarding this episode, they make the time. Now, here's the thing. Every single one of us has 24 hours in a day. You should be sleeping 8. So let's say 16. Okay. How are you using that 16 hours? I guarantee, and I'm going to be a little harsh in this episode because I think a lot of people just don't want to hear this. I guarantee the majority of you do not know where your time is going. Probably have no idea. I can't even tell you the amount of people who are like, yeah, I just spent like 3 hours laying in bed on my phone yesterday. I was like, oh my God. You did what?
My heart.
But then those are the same kinds of people who are like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time.
Mm.
Most people have no idea where their time is going. And this is not to shame anyone. This is not to make anyone feel bad, but it's really to hold up the mirror of what so many of us are avoiding and what I avoided for a really long time. So when I was in the early phases of my personal development journey, my coach and I did a what did he call it? A time audit.
Nice.
We basically took the entire an entire week and broke down how much of what were the things I was doing, how much time was invested in those things, whatever it was. Literally even being like taking a shower I put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then what time is left over after that? There's 100 and how many hours are there in a week? Like 160? I'm
I'd
going to
have to
just say 160. There's somewhere around there. I'm probably wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 40 hours of my week. I could not tell you what I was doing.
Mm.
Now think about that for a second. 40 hours of 168-hour weeks. That's a full work week.
Mm.
I could not tell you where my time was going. And that was the biggest wake up call. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee I was like goofing off on my phone somewhere, or like investing time watching TV and like not tracking it, or doing other things that were not helping me actually get the things that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did after that, and what we're going to talk about today in this episode, is how to get back your time so that you are not having that excuse. Because in all honesty, it is an excuse.
Mm.
We make time for what is important. We schedule our day based on the top priorities. And now this is where I wanted to take this. And I know Emilia has a little bit of a pivot, but they're both aligned in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
What is the top 5, let's say top 5, most critical things for you in your life? I have 4. Myself, so my own personal development, my growth, my physical, mental, emotional, spiritual development, all of that. So me, I am my top priority.
Whoop.
No, and that took a long time getting there, let me tell you. Number
That's why I celebrated that.
I know. Number 2 is my business. Evolve Ventures, the team meetings, doing behind the scenes stuff for the team and for the business that we're building. That's number 2. Number 3 is my coaching, right? So I do coaching separately from that. I have a bunch of clients that I see. So that'll be either like working with clients, onboarding clients, doing all of this stuff. Number 4 is my therapy job. So I work as a coach for myself and for Evolve Ventures. And then I work as a therapist. I have a full-time job working as a therapist. Mm-hmm. Those are my top 4 priorities. I'm not in a relationship. When I am finally in a relationship, she will be number 5. She'll probably be number 2, but that's obviously contingent upon finding someone who's not going to be like, I need you right now, and like having a misaligned relationship. And that's a whole nother episode. I got a little personal there. Wow. All right.
Attracting.
Yeah, seriously. Anyways, but as of right now, those are my top 4. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you were to look at my schedule, I plan those priorities first. Number 1 is me, right? So I take, what do I need? What do I need to make sure that I do? Okay. So the first thing I schedule is my sleep, and I reverse engineer it from there. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm up at 4:30, which means I need to be in bed by 8:30. And for everyone who's like, oh my God, you're a grandma, I know, but I'm also very high performing. So you got to weigh the cost. You got to weigh the costs and benefits. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I reverse engineer that. Okay. So I have to be up at 4:30. So that means I got to go to sleep at 8:30 in order to get 8 hours of sleep. Okay, perfect. I'm at the gym at 5. That's in my calendar. If you were to pull up my calendar, it's the same thing. Okay, what's after that? Me. I do a 3-hour morning routine. I showed it to Emilia the other day and we were going through it. So 3 hours are spent like doing my hair and eating and whatnot so I can get ready for work. But there's a solid hour and a half in that of just being there for myself and doing certain rituals and things to prime myself to be the absolute best I can be every single day.
Heck yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I do my nightly wind down and R&R. So those are scheduled. Those are all the things that are for me. Then I do the same thing for Evolve Ventures because that's my second priority. That's the second highest priority in my life. Then I do all of my coaching stuff. That's my third priority. Same exact thing. Then I do my job. That's the least priority of my top 4. So that gets scheduled within the time period that I have allocated for it based on all of the other stuff. That is optimizing your calendar. That's how you ensure that you're not just going off the rails saying, well, where can I plug in this? And this is important. Where can I plug it in? No. You look at your week and you say, what are the absolute most important things and how can I schedule them first? And then everything else is secondary, like doctor's appointments and whatever else, which unfortunately most people, that's the only thing they use a calendar for.
You and I were talking about that just before this episode of like, it's fascinating because I grew up in a household that like an agenda was a thing that like just was never seen ever. Like I was the only one. And I felt like a weirdo as a result because I like, if you were to look in my closet, I have like all of my agendas from like college and all that stuff, which I need to purge. Yes. But what has always been so important to me has been how I spend my time. And I want to use the spend versus invest because in that terminology, because when you're spending your time, you're not going to get it back. You're not building anything. You're not building towards anything because you're spending it, right? Investing your time is very different. And what Bianca, you just highlighted is those top 5 or top 4 priorities. You investing time in that is actually building towards something. It's building towards your dreams. It's building towards who you aspire to become. It's building towards the partner that you aspire to attract, right? It's building towards all of the things that you are cultivating and manifesting in your life, which is a very big difference from a lot of people who just spend their time without any sort of awareness, without any sort of control, without any sort of intentional investment. And that's one of the biggest thing that breaks my heart. It's the most challenging thing when you first get started because you realize how many boundaries, how much you haven't honored things that are valuable to you, how much you've been a slave to your conditioning, a slave to your desire to belong, and a slave to everyone else's desires, aspirations, etc. And so I'm super proud of you for just even saying like grandma and peak performer. Like you don't typically see those together, but I choose to be that because I am an investor, not a spender of my time. There is a big, big difference in that. And that's something that I'm so excited to really bring our team up on. I'm excited to bring our clients up on. I'm excited for all of those people who want to get into our orbit and learn how to be an investor of your time versus a spender of your time so that you can understand the big difference of when you're looking back at your life and saying, do I have any regrets? There is not even a question to it. You know, because you intentionally invested your time based on what life you aspire to have and based on who you aspire to be. There's a big difference between those types of people, right? So to get into some quick basics, there's 3 things that I told Bianca that I wanted to pull into this episode. First of all, you probably have heard of optimization, but might not even know what it means. And if you haven't heard of optimization and this is your first time, welcome to the world of investing in things that have a higher return than you might initially thought. So I'm going to dive into the principle of optimization. And if you were to look it up on Google, I really encourage you to do that because there's different forms of optimization, right? If you want to look at the word optimization on a business perspective, it's a little bit different, but same concept, same principle versus a mathematic optimization, right? It's really when you look down at the core of it, it's selecting statistically most significant variables that maximize the greatest return for expended energy. So when it applies to the calendar, you want to maximize your ability to enjoy your life and build towards something by choosing what you put on your calendar and how you invest your time, right? That's a practical day-to-day application. Now, I want to bring you into an example where kind of a cute little story that I remember. And this, we just recently had Easter, Orthodox Easter, now that we're going into the month of May. And I remember experiencing some of the Easter egg hunts that we used to have as a kid. There would be, and you can probably relate to this if you happen to celebrate any sort of or variation of Easter egg hunt. There might be little treats and eggs. There might be flowers. There might be candies. There might be sometimes money. I've heard of all different things with inside plastic eggs. And I remember growing up, and shout out to my dad. My dad would put like dollar bills in Easter eggs. And
My
he
mom
would
did
put
too.
like
She was a savage.
Oh, that's awesome. And it like I'm excited to maybe one day interview or have a conversation with my dad about this, but I'm sure you all probably had, well, I don't want to blanket this. I'm sure you're aware of some sort of Easter egg hunt. And so when I was growing up, this was something that I looked forward to because candy didn't necessarily like, yeah, it was good, but it didn't necessarily do anything for me. I couldn't invest that candy into anything. It was just a dopamine hit. It was like, yeah, this is
Invested it
yummy.
into my mouth.
Yeah, I invested it in my mouth. That I would call spending because we didn't build that towards anything. Whereas when I got a dollar bill, I could actually invest that. I could put that in my piggy bank. I had this cute pink piggy bank that like was this giant fat piggy. It was so cute. And at the very top, I could slip in my dollar bills. And I remember this concept of saving your money that was being taught to me as I was growing up. And so every single time it came to Easter egg hunts, I would look at that as a competition to find and optimize the best eggs, the ones that had the dollar bills in it, not the candy, not the coins, but ones that had $20 bills in it, ones that had tens, right? I was meticulous at making sure I understood and I learned how the egg with the candy felt and sounded and how it like how that experience and where it was placed. My brain picked up on the exact strategy that egg was. I learned how it shook when I would shake it. How quick would I need to shake it or hold it to determine if this was a 10, a 20, or $1 bill? My brain works so hard. It's crazy.
That's
I literally
hilarious.
remember trying to optimize which egg, the extent to which I picked it up. I could determine within 2 seconds of holding it if it was a candy egg or if it had money in it. And if that money had a dollar bill or coins. And so, what I'm bringing to each one of you is that at a very young age, I learned because of my motivation and understanding of investing versus that quick spending. Big, big difference. So again, shout out to my parents in that regard. But here's the thing. I ran a risk every single time I optimized for only the eggs that would have had the dollar bills in it. So I could have I risked all the easy eggs that were in easy areas to find for all of the ones that were up higher, were more challenging, sneaky spots. And I primed my mind to be aware of what each one sounded, felt like, where, like all of those little things, which in technology we refer to as neural net learning, which is we have incredible resources at our disposal. Our brain will pick up on things that return the most value to us. We see this all the time in AI. A lot of people get afraid when it comes to artificial intelligence. You might be like, Emilia, why the hell are you talking about that when we're talking about basics? That's the opposite of a basic, right? But I want to bring this down to you for examples of this, right? I was just telling you about an Easter egg hunt. Think about that in correlation to your time. If I were to give you 4 keys and you found out that one key opens a door, any door in the whole hotel, versus key number 2, which opens multiple doors. You don't necessarily know how many doors, but it opens multiple doors. Gave you key 3, which opens only doors with money in it. Which one of those 3 sounds good to you right now? Probably key number 3. You know that the doors that are going to open, there's money behind it. But what if I were to give you and tell you that there's a door number 4, which not only does it open doors, but it only opens doors that have the most money in it, and it tells you which exact doors to go to, knowing that it optimizes the great amount of return for your investment, right? So you probably would pick key number 4. This, when it comes to optimization, is the strategic process of identifying the best statistical choices based on high impact goals with the lowest risk in logarithmic learning along the way. Now, all of those big fancy words might totally turn you off, but what I'm saying to you in simple terms is that the most basic thing that you can take away in this episode is that your brain can do this work for you. You have so many different neural networks within your brain to learn at an advanced rate of what is most important to you. But my question to you, do you have the belief that you can get to it? Do you have an understanding, the clarity that Bianca had mentioned as to what is most important to you? It's a yes or no question. If you were to do a time audit with that, would you know your top 3 priorities, right? And then the third point that I wanted to bring down, so that first point was understanding the definition of optimization and how it can help you, right? We went through the principles, and then at the very bottom, Evolve Ventures definition of optimization, some egg hunt references to refer you to. But second is the belief. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Do you believe that you can learn a new skill? Because if you don't believe that, your brain's not going to work towards trying to figure out how to optimize your life, right? If you didn't believe that you could ever be at the level that you are at right now with your calendar, there'd be no way in hell you ever put the trust in the coach to be like, yeah, okay, let's do a time audit. Yeah. You wouldn't. Fact. And then point number 3 that I wanted to bring in here to be basic, right? Basic. Fall in love with the optimization decision-making process. So we have a digital asset that we'll link in the show notes that will help you in the process of decision-making. And it's very similar to, if you've ever heard of Eisenhower's decision-making matrix. But we've kind of built on the shoulders of giants here, where because we have determined a lot of our decision-making paradigm around what is optimized and what's aligned for us, you understand that either you're executing, you're automating, you're delegating, you're deleting it from your life. Bianca's other priorities are not even remotely a concern for her right now, because the most important are those top 4, which she's executing on. She's automating or she's delegating to something or someone else, may it be tech or another person, to be able to execute on. So my questions for you in this episode is, number 1, asking yourself, whatever you're spending your time in, when you feel as though you don't have time and you're just looking at your week at a high level, 0 to 10, what you are spending your time on, is this aligned? AKA, is it an investment? Is it building towards something? Number 2, how can this thing or this event be optimized for you based on your core values, your core beliefs, and your core aspirations? And number 3, how can I make the messy action towards optimizing worth it? For example, if I didn't have, the willingness, the growth mindset that I could learn how to pick up the most important egg, the one that had the $20 bill in it, I would have never tried to figure out and make a game out of finding the eggs and shaking them and hearing them in the different sounds. So while that might be a small, very immature game, what has come of it was a lot of money as a kid. My piggy bank. And yeah, did I get a lot of hate from my siblings here and there? For sure. A lot of jealousy comes that way too sometimes. And I wasn't always successful, but the risk was worth it to me. That a fat old piggy bank when I was a kid. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you don't have time, these are some very basic things that looking at your priorities, getting clear. Do you have a growth or fixed mindset? Do you know what optimization means? If not, look it up, right? Understand what it means to you, and look at the digital asset that we have in the show notes to help you understand if this is a decision for me, okay, is it aligned? Is it optimized? To what extent? And then take that decision making process and apply that to your life. So that
You
was
know
super
what?
long winded, but those are
No,
the
that was
top three.
awesome.
Thanks, babe.
That was
The
awesome.
Easter egg hunt, that was a
That was awesome.
core memory.
If that just brought something up to me, or I had a download. If you've ever looked at someone who's someone people highly value,
depends on who you're asking, but like, for
yeah,
example,
that's
those who have power and influence, you could say the president, depends on what area you are. You could say musicians. That's
yeah,
obviously.
Okay. If you've ever been scrolling on Instagram and saw someone with a like magnificent house, you see someone, and this is actually someone who has earned this and like bought this and like has actually made this, not the people who like Photoshop themselves like with houses or go to places where like you can take a picture in front of a jet, like someone who actually has these things, right?
Yeah.
So someone who has like a gorgeous home, they have a beautiful relationship, like they have the dream life. If you've ever found yourself saying must be nice, I guarantee that person has mastered optimization. I guarantee it.
Good point.
Anyone who has what you want, anyone who has what you value, it's because they have optimized their life in a way to actually get it. They have made time, they've optimized their calendar, their schedule, their entire life to ensure that they get that thing. A perfect example, and someone that I'm really becoming like enamored by, is Kobe Bryant.
I love that word.
I don't know if is that the right word?
I love it. Yes, it is, for sure.
Okay. Let's
highly admired.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
In a respectful way.
I admire him so much. Not because of basketball. In all honesty, I don't care about basketball. It's about what he did in order to become the greatest basketball player of all time. If you really listen to what he did nothing that was not cultivating his skills to be a better player. That's why he was able to have the things that he had. It was a byproduct of optimizing his time to make sure that he grew the skills to be able to go on weekends and be with his kids, to coach his kids' teams, to be there for his wife and to get her whatever she wanted, and to be the greatest player of all time. He optimized more than probably anybody. And that's the only reason why he was who he was. Not because he's better than you, not because of any of these things, but because of the amount of effort he put into it. And you can do the same, but you have to dismiss your excuses and allow yourself to just do it and to fail forward and to be uncomfortable. I think that's another big part of it. And I think this is a good lead in to my episode suggestions. So 78, what are you willing to sacrifice for your dreams?
So good.
You're going to have to make sacrifices. It's just that simple. I've talked about it in previous episodes, but the amount that I have sacrificed to be here today, to be doing what I'm doing, I can't even begin to explain. Like, it's more than what I've ever talked about. Like, Emilia knows, but
Yeah.
just I've sacrificed everything to be doing what I'm doing because this is so important to me.
Mm.
Number 76, giving yourself permission to succeed.
Mm.
We interviewed Dr. Taryn McCarthy, and she did a beautiful job at expressing and teaching how to give yourself permission to do the challenging things and to believe in yourself and to just try and put the effort in on yourself to get what it is that you want. And then number 70, Amelia's going to love this one. Your need for belonging is screwing you.
Ooh, man, you can't talk about optimization without talking about that. Let's be real.
Right. I'm going to give a perfect example of that. And then I know Emilia is going to go into her top 3. Easter was the 2 weeks ago. So I celebrate both Easters because my mom is Orthodox and then my dad is, he follows like the traditional Roman Catholic, whatever.
Mhm.
I did not go to either Easter celebration because it was not optimized for me to take that much time out of 2 separate Sundays. It actually was 4 Sundays in a row because 2 Palm Sundays and 2 Easters. And I was expected to be at all of them.
Mhm.
And all 3 of these different things, these episodes that I touch upon, relate to this. What are you willing to sacrifice? Do you give yourself the permission to do it?
Mhm.
And are you okay knowing that you're not going to belong? There's going to be backlash. People are going to be upset that you're not doing what's expected of you.
Mhm.
Your need for belonging is going to, honestly, it is going to screw you
Yeah.
unless you can like just allow yourself to be okay knowing that your goals are more important than some of these things and that everything you want will be a byproduct of that.
Thank you for saying that, B. Holy schmoly, is that important? Ooh. Okay. Episode number 26, Passion, Purpose, and Alignment, the love triangle. That episode
It's a good
is
one.
definitely, if you struggle with clarity, that one I have heard feedback that that's been really helpful for some people to understanding how can you align the passion, purpose, and alignment ultimately in your day-to-day life. A lot of that comes from pain. And that's another episode that we're going to get into eventually. Episode number 48, What Builds Self-Belief. Again, we touched on even with Kobe Bryant, right? And B, I appreciate you starting with athletics and ending with athletics, ironically. Being the bindings of this episode, we value as a society athletes so much. And when we really get underneath that, it's like some of the athletes end up falling to a drastic measure after they're done with their season or after they're done not being around their coach, who's, by the way, inserting self-belief so much to these athletes that they can do it. They will, and pushing them beyond what is even in their realm of possibility. And Kobe Bryant has modeled in an exquisite manner how when you have a growth-oriented mindset and you can actually take messy action to try it out, get uncomfortable, and build self-belief so that if you fail, you get up, you try again. That builds the self-belief. You not doing that takes away from that. So 48 really gets into that. 40, how to prioritize your life, gets into, I believe, the evolved decision-making matrix again. But either way, that one is definitely helpful and dives into prioritization, which is huge. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. So B, to wrap this full up, what is your biggest takeaway for this episode for our listeners?
Understand what your top 3 to 5 most important things are, and then schedule the time for them before anything else.
Mm. Thank you. The takeaway that I will say here is going to be hardcore, but I know a lot of people fear technology, and those who are not learning how to optimize should, because this is going to be hard. Technology is evolving how we do things. And if you don't understand how to leverage your own technology, meaning your mind, to optimize your life, you will be behind time and time again. And so leverage the technology that you have at your disposal, aka your brain, your neural networks, your learning, which is what, by the way, AI has been developed to model the brain. Be that brain that technology wants to model because it is so optimized.
And adaptive.
Yeah. So if you like this episode, please share it with someone that you love and care about and who really needs to hear this episode. Otherwise, please join us in our IG Live, which is not Tuesdays anymore, but it is Fridays, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time on IG. Catch us there, and we dig in a little bit more to the bridge topics to our episodes.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for being a part of the community, and we will talk to you all soon. Bye.